Backwoods Biker Magazine and Wood Tramp Outdoors. Over the years we've been asked several times if we could put together a very rudimentary basic class or series of classes on survival. And up to this point, you know, we've just left it up for the classroom, but we're going to do a series of basic survival videos. Hang tight. Guys, welcome back. Several emails. One of them that really kind of got me going in this, there was two people. Number one was a gentleman down in Florida that wrote us about going up into the hills of Montana for a couple months in the late fall, early winter, that had no experience with it at all. And the things that he told me made me realize he was heading into a dangerous situation. Second one was from a lady that was from Sussex, England, that she said that she was wanting to get into the outdoor life, but she had no idea where to start in regard to survival skills. And the one thing that she said was that all the videos that she has seen on YouTube took for granted that you already had some basic skills or a basic knowledge of how to get out of the gate. So that's what we're doing. We're going to do this level 100 survival class online, and we're going to try to keep these under 15 minutes each time. So with that being said, let's get started. The first thing that we're going to ask you is to take the time to be able to think about what your definition of survival is. What is survival? So I'm going to put this big old question mark right here. What is survival to you? When you say, you know, I'm in a survival situation, or I had one guy, more than one guy, gee, I can't tell you how many people, you know, inform me that they're going out for a weekend of survival and want to know what I could recommend to them. To me, that is so far off the grid as to what you really need to be asking. You know, the first question is what is a survival situation? Well, to me, a survival situation is when you are put into a compromised position or opportunity where your life is actually threatened, or the life of your party is actually threatened. If you do not make adjustments, if you do not recognize what's going on, and you do not overcome that, you will be overcome by it, and you will not survive. The goal of survival is to get back home alive, and you do whatever you have to do with whatever you have at that time in the place where you're at. So that would be the first thing, is the knowing what survival is, okay? And in order to be able to survive, now we're talking about some action. And the first point of action that I want to talk about has nothing to do with a bow drill. It has nothing to do with boiling water or starting a fire with friction or solar or whatever. This is what I'm talking about right here. The mindset, okay? The mindset of survival. What simply means is that survival starts in your head, in your brain. You know, we have been created with the most awesome computer and filing system between our two ears that God ever created. I mean, our brains are phenomenal. What you see, what you hear, what you smell, what you read, what you watch are all being taken in, all right? And they're being placed in a bank in your memory that you can pull out at a later date. And this is something we're going to be getting to here shortly. You know, how do you pull something out of your memory, okay? So your mindset has to be there. And there is a few mindset things that I want to talk about today that are very important that you need to learn before you ever step foot out into the bush, all right? And the first ones we're going to talk about is the rule of threes. Now, a lot of folks knows what those are. You know, the 3 minute, the three, hours, the 3 days. Now, I've been told that there are 5, right? There are 5 principles of the rule of threes. I don't know that I 100% agree with that, because the 5th one I've never experienced, and I know folks that have and have survived very, very well. So let's get into that. What are the rule of threes? Okay, the first one, and I'm going to leave a little room above this here, but the first one is 3 minutes. Why is 3 minutes important? Because if you have an obstructed airway or serious arterial bleeding, you only have 3 minutes to be able to restore that breathing, 3 minutes to be able to stop and control that arterial bleeding. That's why it's important to know. And it's important to know how to do that before you ever get out there. Because if you don't, you could die. Now, something I want to make mention of, if you happen to be out in the bush by yourself and you cut yourself, you hit your femoral artery, which is super serious, you can survive that if you have the right IFAC kit, the individual first aid kit, and it has a tourniquet in it. You can survive that and probably even walk out painfully, but hopefully you've got a radio or something to be able to get you out, a personal locator beacon if you're far out. But if you're an individual and you somehow obstruct your breathing, or you fall and get punctured in the lung and you can't breathe properly, it is hard, not impossible, but it is hard to be able to restore your own personal breathing in most cases, not all. I want to qualify that, okay? So that's important to know. Next thing is the 3 hours. We're going to put just hours down here. I don't need to rewrite the 3. We're going to put 3 hours. Why is 3 hours important? Because you only have 3 hours in extreme weather conditions, whether it's extreme cold or extreme heat, to control your own personal environment. Case in point, if you are caught in a below freezing situation with driving wind that will make the wind chill factor even worse on your skin, you've only got 3 hours to build yourself a shelter and get warmth going on where you're at. You know, whether it is a debris shelter, if it is a lean-to shelter, if you happen to have resources, if you got a tarp or whatever, you only got 3 hours to get that under control, or you could lose your life. Hypothermia and hyperthermia are very serious issues, no matter how you look at it. On the opposite end, if you are in an extreme heat situation, you could dehydrate very, very quickly. You've only got 3 hours to be able to control that, you know. Find yourself some shade, get yourself some hydration, you know, and when you compare, you know, 3 minutes to 3 hours, it seems like eternity, but when you are in a desperate situation, no. And what I'm going to put up here in place of the 3 minutes to show you what I think how it all starts will tie in with this. So the next one is you have got 3 days. This is the third rule of 3 days. You have only 3 days to be able to find, collect, process enough water to hydrate yourself. Your body can go 3 days. You'll be thirsty at the end of the 3rd day, believe me, especially if it's in a heated condition, and that could accelerate this 3 days also. If you're sweating a lot and you're starting to dehydrate, you need to get some hydration. In 72 hours after that, your body starts breaking down, your organs start to fail. Water's important, and you've only got about 3 days to be able to do that. And again, that might seem like an eternity until you get put in that position and have to find water, okay? The next one is 3 weeks. Your body can go without food for 3 weeks. Yeah, it's rugged. You know, I've went as far as 17 and a half days, almost 18 days without eating. I did it on purpose, and I've learned a lot about not only how the body functions in that situation, but I learned a lot about myself, learned a lot about my mental capacity in that situation. It was good learning for me. Not that I recommend it for you, but I'm just saying it was good learning for me. But if you happen to be in a survival situation, your body can go 3 weeks without food. You'll be hungry, you'll be restless, you'll get weary, you'll get tired because you got to have calories, you got to have fats, you got to have carbohydrates to keep the engine going. But you have 3 weeks, and you wouldn't believe how little food you can actually survive on. All right. So, and then the last one, which I think is controversial, because I have people that have done this and they survive very well. All right. The last in the conventional bracket of the rule of threes is 3 months. Now, the theory is that the human psyche can take no contact for 3 months before it begins to break down and get weird. What that weird is, I guess it's all up for grabs, but from what I understand, from what I've read and for some of the experts that I have talked with, we have been conditioned over our lifetime to have that human exchange, and without it, we start to degrade on an individual basis, especially mentally, and it also obviously affects you socially, okay? The reason that I don't agree with it so much is because I know several people that have went out in the bush and has been out there for 4 or 5, 6 months on long hunts, went out and built a cabin, and they had no contact. Purposely, they took no cell phones, no communication devices. They just went with what they had, and they came back just fine. So I don't know that I really believe that too much. I think that as an individual, you have got to be wrapped pretty tight and don't be able to do that. So you've got a loose end anyway. And I don't mean to be disrespectful when I say that, but some people can take it a whole lot more than others, But I think it can survive more than 3 months without human contact. Matter of fact, there's been times where I wish I could have done that. All right, so being facetious there. So now, what is that one thing that I'm talking about? Well, we're going to put a 6th one in here, but this goes up here on top of the 3 minutes, and I'm going to draw it over here so you can see it very clearly. 3 seconds. Okay? What happens in 3 seconds? From what my experience is and what I have watched others do in a survival emergency situation is that you have 3 seconds to decide whether or not you're going to panic and let fear overtake you. Let me say that again. You got 3 seconds to decide whether or not you're going to let fear overtake you. You don't want to panic, because when you panic, it stops your cognitive thought process. It freezes you up and you're watching something unfold. Seconds can mean the difference between life and death. An example would be, if you've never seen it happen, if somebody gets an arterial bleed, I mentioned the femoral artery, you cut this guy and blood is going to squirt for 6 feet for a bit. And when you first see something like that, it will scare you. It will shock you. It will set you back, okay? 3 seconds is a long time to let something bleed, because those 3 seconds will build up one behind the other. And while you're deciding what you're going to do, what I should do, am I going to do anything at all? Oh, I don't know how to stop that type of bleeding. That's where people get in bad trouble. So that's why I say 3 seconds is a part of my rule of threes, and I actually take this last one out. Okay? All right, hang tight. I got something else I want to do for you. Get the board all cleaned up so I could get you on to the next section of this particular class, Survival 101, the basics. We talked about the rule of threes, and for me, the priority on that, they're all priority, but it starts out with 3 seconds. Don't panic. What does panic do? Panic brings on fear, and fear will freeze you up, something you do not want to do when you have to make a split-second decision. Fear will make you think. Fear will... Thinking wrong. It's called stinking thinking. You'll be thinking all the wrong things, what should I do? I can't do this. I can't do that. I better do this. I'm a million miles away. Fear will get a hold of you, okay? And the way that you combat that is that you become confident, because confidence equals control. Now this is a very, very key thing for you to learn as someone that's just getting out of the gate in the survival game or the outdoor game, all right? Hopefully you will never be put in a survival situation. I've been in one twice, and I don't ever want to go back. Anybody that has been in a survival situation, it's not fun. You know, it's not a weekend of going out in the woods and just enjoying yourself. You know, it's getting back home alive. And once that happens to you, it'll give you a great perspective as to what you don't know. And you start to do an inventory. It caused me to do that as well. So, confidence. How do you gain confidence which gives you control over anything? It's right here. Training. Now, what I mean by that is that every skill, okay, that's out there, whether it's a primitive skill, it's a new skill, whatever it is, if you use a lot of technology or you don't, it doesn't matter. But there are basic aspects of being able to survive that you have to know. And we'll be going into those in detail in class 102. But just to kind of give you a place to hang your hat, you know, something as simple as building a shelter, fire. How do you gather? How do you pick up resources? You know, where do you look at for resources? How do you do that? Food. How do you gather food? You know, what kind of foods are available, okay? So there's a long list of things that are there. Tying knots. You know, a lot of people, even those that claim to be avid bushmen, don't know how to tie enough knots or tie the appropriate knots. You know, you don't need to know the whole Boy Scout book. You don't need to know the whole Navy book. You just need to know about 5 different knots, and they will serve you out in the bush. Now, all those are different skills that I just spoke to you about. Okay, different disciplines, if you would please. When you learn something for the first time, let's go with the bow drill. Okay. If you've never made a bow drill before, it'll be challenging. You've got to learn a lot of things before you're going to be successful with the bow drill. And after you do, don't just put that bow drill set up on the shelf somewhere until the next time you go out camping. Because every skill set, and I want to make this very, very clear, no matter the skill set, in order to be able to use it in a survival situation, it has got to be so imprinted down into your memory and your muscle memory and your practical use memory that when you are put in that panic situation, you overcome it through your confidence and through your training, because not only did you learn how to do the bow drill, but you've done it 100 times. You could do it in your sleep. You could do it at night with no light. You could do it in every condition that you might come up with. The bow drill is a little difficult for that in some areas, but what I'm getting at is no matter what it is, you should do it over and over and over again. A bowline knot is a knot that is very, very important out in the bush. You should not only learn how to do that once, twice in a day and then give it up. No, you do that hundreds of times. And I say that for every aspect of every discipline for the outdoors, that puts you in a position to truly be able to survive that disaster that could take your life. All right, we're talking about mindset in Survival 101. And go back over this, write notes, write us down in the comments down there. And again, for those of you guys that are veterans, woodmans, you know, hunters, survivalists, preppers, or whatever, this wasn't designed for you, because you already know all this stuff, and it's like, oh yeah, duh, everybody knows that. No, they don't. So that's what this is for, just basic stuff. And we're going to continue on with this. It's going to be the level 100 class, obviously. And these are actually parts of our introduction to to survival classes. If you're considering taking a survival class with us, this is a part of the introduction that we use just to introduce you. So it's very rudimentary, very simple, but I think you'll agree these will save your life. I want to appreciate everybody for watching this and for the request to put this out there. For our friends and our families that support us, all the vendors that are behind us, that send us their gear, that support us with their advertising, everything that you do for us, we appreciate it. And especially for those of you that sit in front of your computer screen there and you watch these. I want you to learn these, own these. If you like it, hit that share and subscribe button that's down there, the share and like button, and hit the subscribe. That's important. And then once you do, there's an email down there, tony@backwardsbiker.com. Write me an email, just say, I'm a subscriber. And when you do, you get put in our daily or our monthly database where we draw out. You know, we draw out names for gear at every month. So it's very, very beneficial. Sometimes it's big stuff, sometimes it's a handful of small stuff, but it's always a value to you because you didn't pay anything for it except the shipping. So until next time, you guys ride free, you live free. Until you get out in that bush, train, 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 and learn. You'll be confident when you go out there. Take care.